That's right. Oh, you were so close to Parminder. We could have done this face to face. Kind of. Maybe.
Where are you, Parminder? Chicago?
Chicago.
Oh, awesome. I was in Milwaukee and then I went to Door County. It was half the people in Door County were from Chicago. So, yeah, awesome. Man, if I knew that, I would have made a stop down on the way back.
See, if only we had all confirmed this a little bit more. It's just been a crazy week, guys. So much is happening. I'm so excited about the call today for so many reasons. But part of it is simply because Tim and Parminder have been incredibly influential for me as far as mindset, grit, understanding what it takes to do something different and not being scared of that. They are very different people, but they share so many core values. And I'm so lucky to be part of their community. Well, let me phrase it. I'm lucky to have them as part of my community. They have yet to send me an invitation. So we're gonna get there as we go. Anyway, I'm gonna put this link on Facebook because now we have it. I wanna make sure people can get in because they will. Awesome, and that's done. So Tim, Parminder, thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure, buddy. Always a pleasure, Jacob.
So this is my first time doing a panel of sorts. And the reason why I selected Tim and Parminder to be a part of my first panel was, one, they are patient with me, and I love them for that. Two, they have both become disruptors in their respective industries, and it was inadvertent. It wasn't intentional. They didn't set out to do it. In fact, they both started off with very different ideas from what their companies have actually turned into. I was around for the start of both of them, which is super cool. And as it turned out, their little ideas transformed into something much bigger, both of them. All right, so I'm going to start going back and forth. Parminder, for those of us who are just tuning in, have no idea what Track and Protect is, which is right behind you. What is your company today?
Let me unmute myself first. So Track and Protect actually we're a real-time location platform where we provide real-time location services to hotels. And our number one product is safety buttons, where we have an impact on the safety culture in hotels by providing them with a safety button that employees can carry for their own protection, their registered guests and unregistered guests. And unregistered guests are human trafficking victims.
Oh my God, when you told me that story last time, I couldn't stop thinking about it. That was crazy. But yes, so what she started off with, so that's what she's doing now. It's for hotels to be able to track inventory and individuals in their homes, and it helps them identify human trafficking victims, which is, being in South Florida, that's huge. We're a big hub for it. So I'm so glad that you're here trying to do your work, which is great. But that's not how you intended to start your business. Parminder, what was the inception seed for Track and Protect? What was your first idea that made this happen?
So the first idea was, as you recall, that's when I was taking my dance lessons with you, was it really came out of my kids not being able to find their things at home. And so while there seemed to be an app for everything, there wasn't an app to track their crap, as I said it. And so it was basically, we kind of looked at each other at that point when I said, is there an app to track your crap? I mean, you guys keep coming up with all these apps. And they looked at me and said, we should build one. And so we started to first try and find something. We couldn't, and then decided we would build it. And as we decided that we would build it, it was intended to be for a home inventory system. Then home valuables, we were actually talking to State Farm about what they insure and what valuables they find. And they were interested in learning about what consumers find valuable. We were talking to moms who had kids in, part horse camps, so to speak, or horseback riding. And so they wanted to track horseback equipment because, when they were taking the kids out for activities, soccer activities, and just things that they felt people, their kids left in other people's homes, grandma's home, different spouses, so, or parents living in different homes, going from home A to home B and being able to track where things were, came down to books. And we were really going down that path of being the tile, and by that time, tile had been just released, and we were going to be tile on steroids. Because whereas tile was, you had to walk around the house to find the equipment, we actually were able to do it where you could stand by the door and say, where are my keys, and just look it up on the app and be able to find it rather than walk through the house and try and find them. So we really were going to be a consumer product, and our goal was to be consumer and then eventually go into B2B. But we actually were approached by Hyatt hotels to where they wanted to track their stuff in their hotels. And we thought, wow, is that even a problem? And learned very quickly it was. And it wasn't just a Hyatt specific problem, but it was a hotel problem. And we found that it just made better business sense to just pivot into hotels at that time.
Can talk about convenient. And it was such a great, ingenious thing. How do you find your crap is like an everyday problem. I never know where my keys are. I don't know where my sunglasses are. I lose, if my wallet wasn't part of my cell phone, I'd lose that too. The one thing I can't lose is, my cell phone, because I'm always on it. So that's my safety place. But that's something that everyone can use. And it's hard to imagine that for most of us, that corporations have the same problem. Like big companies have these everyday issues that you're helping to solve.
That's the thing I found interesting at Hyatt when they came to us and they said, this is an issue we're having. As we did the research and I went into hotels and different hotels, Hilton's and so on, Marriott's and stuff, different hotels. And back then my CTO, we actually walked into hotels and asked them, what are you using? What do you find? If you can believe it, one of the items they wanted to track was plungers, toilet plungers. Because commercial grade toilet plungers, you don't buy 200 of them, you buy maybe 2. And when you need them, you can't find them. And so it was like, we would love to be able to, or ladders, engineering ladders, because when they go up and fix the light bulb and then they come down, those ladders can be on a rooftop because they were doing something up on the roof. It can be down in the basement or anywhere in between. And so initially that was sort of like, what would help them increase? But we found where our real value was a family comes in, checks in late, needs a crib for their baby. The baby's crying. They want to put the baby down to sleep and they can't find the crib for 2 hours. And now they have to comp things to the family. They have to, for the inconvenience of having a crying baby, not being able to go to sleep, not putting the baby to sleep on a bed and then move them into a crib. And anyone with a baby knows, when you do that, they can wake up. So things like that we found it was guest requested items was where we added the most value to a hotel in being able to help them find the item and deliver it quickly. Because the issue was while you could order a Lyft from down the block or Uber from down the block in under 4 minutes and get a car, you couldn't get what was on the property for something like 45 minutes to 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
45 minutes to 2 hours. So you could get a Lyft, but you couldn't get an Uber, you couldn't get a crib.
Right.
That's funny. That's very funny. I mean, it's something you don't think about, but it makes sense, right?
Yeah, and that's when you really start understanding the inner workings of a hotel. You and I are used to going into a hotel, asking for what we need, checking in, going to our room, and assuming that they know where everything is. And I think in our minds, it's because we don't process like what's going on in the background. But at a certain level, we think maybe there's this giant storage space where they keep everything and then that's it. In fact, 90% of the hotels don't have a giant storage space. They actually have what's called a housekeeping yard, but everything goes through the housekeeping yard, but it goes into different storage rooms. And there's a storage on at least 1, if not 2 storage areas on every floor. So every hotel that we consult with, we look at their floor plans and we find that it's 2, sometimes 3 storage areas on the floor. So can you imagine now that as someone's checking out, they've quickly got to take the item, whatever extra items there were out of the room, put it into some storage closet, make the room, clean it, and get it up to par so that it can be rented out again. And they put that room back into inventory. But who took that item when they took it out of a room and where they put it is anyone's guess, because it depends on whether that actually made it to the storage area. Did it actually make it down to the housekeeping yard? Maybe it didn't make it all the way back up. It's sitting in a hallway somewhere, in an elevator like service landing. It could be anywhere. And that was the interesting thing for us, was that we were able to, as we went into hotels and researched this, we would find things and just areas you wouldn't think of.
Like what, where?
Um,
You say a dead body in a freezer, that'd be hysterical. I mean, not cool, not cool, not cool.
No, we didn't do that. But it's just more, again, hotels. You walk down a hotel hallway, and you've got the nice carpets, you've got the nice like fixtures, you have the, you walk into a room, it's a nice hotel room, and then you walk into the back of the house areas, and they really are like, storage areas, right? So not necessarily. So we would find like these mini fridges. I think the funniest one was like, so there's hotels that actually have extra fridges they give out to conference attendees or their VIPs. Think about it. Someone might need to store their insulin in a fridge, or a breastfeeding mom might want to store, she's there for a conference and she might want to use the fridge while she's there. And so they would have these extra fridges they could bring to the room. But what we found was, and this was hilarious, so we were installing a property and there was a fridge we were supposed to tag, and we were looking at the fridge and we opened the fridge, it was plugged in, and we opened it, it was filled with beer. So clearly someone on staff thought, hey, we don't use this often enough. We're going to plug it in and bring our beer to work and store beer in this fridge and maybe sneak a beer in here and there. I couldn't even tell you what property it was, but I just remember sort of chuckling about it and saying, holy crap. And yet we had to put it in inventory. And we when we joked about it with one of the staff members, they were like, oh, wow, I didn't even know we had that fridge. I forgot where that fridge was. Because they would lose count because it was tucked away in a corner somewhere. They didn't even know where to find it.
And then, of course,
yeah,
I'm the same way. Like if I throw something in the right spot in my closet, I will forget about it until I move. It's like Hermione's purse; it just gets sucked in. You never see anybody else.
I have a Snickers bar hiding in my office somewhere that I can tell you it's somewhere.
I know that I've got some other things hiding right now, but I don't want to say where they're hiding from because I know where they are, but I've got kids here, so we keep it secret.
Yeah.
So Tim is here as well. So Parminder, so we just found out how she got started was to help you find your crap for families. That turned into something commercial, which is super cool, and how that's taken her career down the line and what's going on there. I'm going to circle back to her in a minute, but I want to have the same question to Tim. Tim also started Smog Armor Paint 2.5 years ago, right?
Yeah, about that.
That, roughly, yeah. So 2.5 years ago, now, but the same thing is Tim started off in commercial real estate. He is a broker. He has agents working for them. He used to have a driver so he could actually answer emails in his car because he had no other free time. So he was doing some big things in real estate, but he's always had a passion for the environment. So he had a little idea one day. Tim, what was that little idea?
To create an exhaust tip for a car that would reduce air pollutants, the emissions coming out of a car.
To create an air tip, make
an exhaust tip,
blah, blah. He wanted to clean the air from your car. Pretty much, right? He wanted to help purify the air. So that's what you started to do. That was the idea. So you started researching it, trying to figure out what was going on, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, I kind of became a self-taught chemist because I wanted to find something from nature that was unadulterated that would actually accomplish that and would actually help protect and improve nature. And I kept on coming across the same thing over and over again that had been utilized for commercial applications and other things. And I decided to see if it would work for what I wanted to do. And it actually worked really well for the muffler tip that reduced air pollutants, but it didn't last long enough. And pivoted and micronized it down to the point where it would actually just mix in like another ingredient in paint. And I had no idea if it would work. And after months of development and finding a paint chemist, because I've never made paint before, and finding a paint manufacturer so that would actually work out, we got it tested and it worked incredibly.
So he went from starting to work on making your car mufflers less disgusting and turn it into making your home and business paint
the air you breathe
all around the place. Isn't that cool? Yeah. So again, the idea from where both of their businesses started was just an inspiration. And they were able to be adaptable. So as opportunities came their way, they were able to take advantage of those opportunities. That's what I take away from this. If you take away something different, please let me know. Now, the thing that's also interesting is both Parminder and Tim are working in hotels now. Go figure. Which is interesting because right now, hotels aren't doing so great with Corona, right? So that's taking me to my next part of this conversation. While the world is kind of waiting to get back to normal, which will never happen, it's going to be a new normal, certain industries are trying to set themselves up to be to stand out and be more effective when we can get back to our lives, right? So disruptors are now able to find a way in where everybody else is running out. Parminder and Tim are disruptors. Parminder, Tim, what are you guys seeing right now in the hospitality industry that you're able to take advantage of because of Corona?
Tim,
On my side,
I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
I'll jump in. I think the number one thing, as we all know, the one big thing is, and this is where we as a company took a step back a few months ago, where we said, what would make us travel? So forget that we work in the industry. We're partners to our hotels, and our role is to bring them business. So we're not in the reservation business. We can't make people make reservations. But what would really help them increase their reservations? And what we found is the number one thing people are looking for is cleanliness. But it was, so all these hotels came out, the brands came out with all these requirements and cleanliness protocols. And the deal was that, okay, we're going to put in place these cleanliness protocols. And the idea was, well, if we have these protocols, people will book. And it turned out that people still didn't book because people didn't want to travel. Because as some folks said, and especially corporate travel groups, which is where most of the hotels make their money, is the fact that while they had these cleanliness protocols, the question was, how do you communicate that those are actually being followed? So it was the adherence and the compliance to those protocols that was important. So what we did was we then looked back and said, okay, how can we help with that communication piece? We're not a texting platform. We're not a marketing platform. So how do we do this? Well, we're a real-time location system. We can prove with data that a housekeeper was actually in the room, the electrostatic sprayer was there, the vacuum cleaner was there, and they were there for 20 minutes, and it took 20 minutes to clean the room, not just 5. And they used all of this equipment, and now we can have it give it the clean label, that it's a clean room based on the fact that it's gone through all this process. So we actually introduced a new product with location technology where people can now, hotels can get reliable, measurable data that those cleanliness protocols have been followed. So I think at a certain level, you have to look at it, what does our customer base need? And as you said something about pivoting, I was just listening to a podcast the other day. One podcast I really recommend, I think I talked about it last time too, is How I Built This Podcast.
Love that podcast.
So,
oh my God,
exactly. So I highly recommend the Resilience series that they have going on right now. In that podcast, the one I was listening to was of the ClassPass CEO, Payal, I can't say her last name, but it was about her and how the first idea she had about making bookings actually failed. And it really didn't work out because it was about booking anything like dance classes and fitness classes and all of that on this platform of searching for classes, not just making a booking. And then she narrowed her focus down to just booking of classes for fitness. And then that's the idea that works. So sometimes you might think, well, okay, Tim pivoted from exhaust pipes to paint and Parminder pivoted from crap to safety buttons. Well, how does that work? Fact is, you have to get started with something. Mm-hmm. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to have the idea that's going to stay there and that's the one that's going to work out. You don't know what's going to work. But until you start with a button, You're not going to know if that button is going to work on a pair of pants, a shirt, maybe something else. Maybe it's going to be a home decor item that's going to need buttons. You have no idea where that button will be placed, but you got to start with that button. And then let that button kind of figure out and let the opportunities and what happens in your journey morph that button into wherever kind of it needs to be. And just be opportunistic, be open to opportunities without jumping at every shiny thing that comes your way. Don't be the fish that jumps at every shining thing that comes your way. That won't work because then you'll be changing all the time. But do it based on research. A shiny thing comes your way, research it and decide, do you want, is it a big enough opportunity to pursue? Or is it something that's just you're going to park and maybe come back to later, but keep pushing that button down the road? And so that's my sort of my view of this, is that we always get all these new ideas for our stuff. But that's where I would say start with the button. And there's no company that I know, whether it's Lyft, whether it's Airbnb, but no matter what company you look at, they are not what they started off with, is not what they're doing today. So don't expect that of yourself. What?
Oh my God, I wish Stephanie were here right now. I don't know where she is, but yeah, we found that ourselves. It's like, oh, let's do this.
Yep.
It was a long time ago. Where are we at now? 9 months later. So yeah, cool idea. Let's have some fun Zoom calls at 3 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, just to make people laugh. So here we are. So Tim, you were talking about, you were just at a hotel, right? You were just showing us the hotel that piggybacking on what,
yeah,
right?
To kind of build off of what Parminder said, what we're noticing from hotel owners, from the VPs, from the regionals, from these hotels, and also American Airlines Arena and the Dolphin was too, because everyone's trying to do something visually because of COVID. They're trying to show people that they're doing something that they care and that they're trying to regain that customer confidence as well as improve the customer experience. So we stayed at a Hilton last night, and this is what they put on our door. I'm sure Parminder is familiar because she was talking on a actually I feel a much better side of it, but they put this sticker that shows that it's a clean stay, and it actually, you tear it and you perforate it when you go in the room, so you feel confident, you feel comfortable that the last person in your room before you went in there was the maids that were cleaning it, sanitizing it, making sure that you're not touching something that someone else touched before they got a chance to Lysol it, which, you know, we also cleaned it anyways, just in case, but it gives you a little better sense of confidence that you're going in somewhere that at least has been turned over and has been paid attention to, and hopefully is adhered to those standards.
So you are also doing a lot of stuff with hotels now that they are empty enough to get things moving in that direction. Tim, how is Smog Armor participating with hotels in the moment?
So what we do is we'll run a pilot program, and you know, Smog Armor is all about creating solutions to air pollution. So we'll go in there with our air monitors, and we'll actually test the rooms after a guest has left or after it has been sanitized. So we'll check it on both sides, and we'll get a real-time reading of what that CO2 levels are and what the VOCs are, which are the airborne chemicals, and the odors will pop up there as well. So we'll actually do this test where we determine how the air quality is in the rooms. Then we'll paint it, and we'll do a test after we're done painting it, before it's dry, which is really not when our product actually starts working. It starts working once it's dry completely, and then we'll test it about 3-4 hours later when that layer of paint is dried. And we've noticed a substantial decrease in CO2 levels and VOC levels. And it actually, my reading, it's pretty rudimentary. It does have the numbers, but it goes from red, toxic, orange, which is poor average air quality, and then green, which is good. And it went from that side of the spectrum, from red air quality, poor air quality, all the way to good after we painted. So we're actually finding ways to convey to the consumers and to the hoteliers that we're actually improving the air quality in their rooms, and that this will actually continue to work for years after they paint it, because it will technically and theoretically reduce the air pollutants up to about 3 to 5 years, 2 to 5 years, depending on the level of air quality that exists in that room. If all the maids and room service turns things over with all these chemical-based cleaning supplies, or it's right next to the side of the expressway and those windows are open, it will obviously have poor air quality and it will reduce that effectiveness sooner.
So it doesn't have to dry to clean the air.
It does have to dry.
It does have
when
to dry.
It starts. Yeah.
Really doing so. Okay. But you're able to show that, and you're able to monitor with your machines the improvement over the air quality in the hotel, and they're able to share that with their customers to show that they're breathing cleaner air in their hotels than other hotels.
Right. So we'll create content for them to show them a time lapse of that air monitoring with the painting, and then that time lapse of those few hours while it's drying, and then where that air quality level will sink down to.
Okay. That's actually really cool. So between the two of these people, do you see how this is kind of a cool little combination? You know your home is clean and you're breathing better air for it. Kind of awesome. See? So did you two intend to be disruptors when you started your businesses?
Yes.
Tell us how and why.
The goal is really, it's bigger than making money, bigger than.
Oh, I feel like this is really good to hear. If only we could hear it.
So start somewhere. Like Parminder said, you got to start with a button.
Yes.
Where it's going to evolve into. I mean, right now I'm not selling.
We'll come back to you, Tim, because you're in a
for some point
sketchy right now. Hold on, Tim. Your service is kind of coming in and out, and I do want to hear what you have to say. So we'll come back when you get a little further down the road, hopefully into civilization. So hold that thought. Parminder, did you plan on being a disruptor when you started?
No. I mean, I guess, I was going to fill a need, and that was the thing, that it was more about just helping moms like myself with a problem that I felt so many of us face day in, day out. So I actually did not venture out to be a disruptor. I'm an attorney by background. Attorneys are not known to be disruptors. Attorneys are known to just simply follow the law, right? Interpret the law, follow the law, and encourage others to do the same. So it was not an intention. And even now, I don't know if I consider myself a disruptor because of the fact that I just feel like we're putting one foot in front of the other. But, when you think about it, it's like the word successful. Sometimes when people say, God, you're so successful, and you're like, am I? There's so much more work to be done. There's so much more. There's that next level I have to get to. But as someone said to me recently, one of my mentors is, success is simply a measure of progress. So progress is the measure of success. So as long as you're progressing, you're succeeding. So as long as you're getting ahead of where you were yesterday, you've succeeded. And that's the only measure you need to keep in mind. I think what we look at success is like, compared to others, and it's the same thing as being disruptor. I think we have to look at it. Are we changing something in the industry? Are we making something better, make it more efficient, make it, human trafficking, for example, looking at safety buttons to address human trafficking. Are we finding new ways to do something and just making things better for employees and people at large? Then yes, you're being a disruptor. So as long as you're doing that, then don't take it in its entirety that, am I a disruptor? It's more like, yes, I'm making a difference. I'm making my little dent in the world.
I love how you said that. So you did not intend to be a disruptor, but you have become one in several ways. And one of the things I gauge by becoming a disruptor is when you start creating your own competition. So, because and it was actually interesting because if my memory serves me correctly, and keep in mind, I have been not sleeping for years, so I could be wrong. You started in the microchip, turned into the panic buttons when you saw the tides turning, and they were already your clients, so you added another product for them. There were other panic buttons that came on the market as well that were less sophisticated. But since you had been in the industry and had set up such an infrastructure, they won't necessarily catch up to you unless you stop. Am I accurate in saying that?
Right, and that's true. In fact, we just got an email from someone. So we have resellers that go out there and sell our product for us. And one of our resellers just sent an email just this morning because he used to sell one of our competitors' products and he decided to move to ours. And as you know, one of my colleagues just emailed him and he said it's because we like that you begin with integrity. That's the first thing that you talk about is the integrity in the company. We like that your product is flexible, that we feel that it's not clunky. And we found, you know, with one of your competitors, we just found that it was clunky. But also the fact that, you know, his thing was there's times I send you an email and I'll just CC Parminder. I don't expect Parminder to respond, but it's always such a nice thing that right from top down that you've got this, that whoever sees the email first responds. That it's not about, well, I'm the CEO, so the salesperson will respond. No, it's like whether it's a customer, whether it's a partner, everyone, because we're all in it together. So it's not about a hierarchy. It's just about who sees the email first. And our goal is to respond within 3 hours to every email. Now, your team might be like, we've been emailing you and you haven't, it's because we do get 200 emails.
Oh, no, I have no problem. Girl, if I have a question, I call you. It's much easier. My team's probably like, Jake, do you ever respond to your emails? No.
But it's also because, you know, if you email a group of us, someone from that group will definitely get back to you within 3 hours. But if it's only to me, that can be a bottleneck sometimes. But it's just then I have to prioritize, right, as to who am I responding to. But that's our company rule, is where it's a customer or partner, we have a rule that somebody has to get back to that customer or partner and say, we see it, here's the answer, or we'll get back to you with the answer, or we're going to look into it and let you know within the next 24 hours. But we have to set expectations so that it's not like the person feels they didn't get a response. So I think that because of that, we do have a reputation of, you know, and also we ask our clients, what do you need? What do you want? What do you want? Like, what would be the one problem that if you could solve today, what would that be? And they come to us with a problem, and then we see if that fits into what we do. And if it doesn't, we help them connect the dots, introduce them to someone else. Or if we can do it, that's when we start our R&D. That's where our internal R&D starts and says, okay, how do we now do this? So one of the things is contact tracing. You know, our hotels have said, we don't know if banquet work will go back until we have contact tracing. So we've looked at it, we could do it. That's our R&D, is like, we found that's a problem. We know we can do it, but we haven't launched it. And the reason is, I'm not sure that's a problem that's going to be a problem longer than 6 to 12 months. Like once the vaccine comes out, will it still be a problem? So will we do the R&D expense for a problem that may not exist forever?
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, because you don't want to spend money on a problem that's only going to be around for 6 to 12 months.
But you're able to track individuals.
We are. But Apple's already doing that. So why would I do something that Apple's doing?
Well, I had a different thought come up here. Tim, what are your thoughts on what you're hearing here? Because I know you're always thinking about how to attack. Apparently someone's knocking on my door. Tim, what are your thoughts here?
Disruptor on what specific?
You're breaking up again.
I'm going to switch to my phone.
Yes.
You have me or no?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So the main reason is that there's way too many companies that need to be disrupted and too many industries that need to be disrupted because they're society negative. Okay. I'm going to switch to my phone.
Got it. Let's try to say where we're at. There we go. A better picture already. We don't need to see your biceps. Is that just me?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Say the alphabet.
I'll switch to my phone.
Okay. Oh, well.
But can I say, I love the paint can.
Right?
I love the logo. I love the paint can. It's just,
Let me show you here. Keep talking. The paint can is, you know, it's funny because it feels really interesting. It's completely eco-friendly.
Yeah.
Everything he does is eco-friendly, which is amazing. He's joining right now. Let me show you the bag it comes in. This is the cool part. Okay,
I
so
want to see it. Yeah.
I'll go get the bag. Tim?
Okay.
Okay, let me just shut this other one down.
Tim, you're muted again. Just unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Let me try
It
to hear you
comes
guys.
in a bag. How cool is this? Like, you actually get, I think something like 20% of all your paint gets stuck on the actual paint can. So again, Tim and his research and development, first of all, it's just a really cool can. Has 0 VOCs, our innovative, eco-friendly nanotechnology paint is non-toxic. It contains 0 VOCs. Paint that will protect your home against indoor air pollution. Very cool. But in
I
order,
love it.
right? So his clients get more of what they're paying for. They came up with this pouch, which is super cool. It comes in all these different colors. Actually, I need to figure out like what color I have in this. Actually, I usually pour it out.
White.
Yeah. So this is the white right here. See that color? So, but it's really cool. It's much lighter. It's much lighter. So when he's actually trying to transfer this from, Florida to Colorado, it comes in a bag. It's much less expensive for traveling.
Yep. And then when you're ready,
And after this call, you and I need to talk because we're working with some hotels that are being built right now. So this would be a great product for them to look at as we work with property management groups and they're building.
Amazing.
So let's connect offline on that.
Awesome.
I have a promo
sounds good.
that will give you a discount. So we'll make sure to use that as well. So Tim, you were saying you intended to be a disruptor when you started Small Company. That was your intention.
Yeah, because the way I see it and the way I feel is that there's too many industries and too many companies that are society negative, that are actually, you're paying them to destroy the environment and to make you less healthy, to compromise your health. For the example of the paint industry, there's too many paint companies that use 51%. It's called solvents, which is chemicals. So 51% of what you buy in that can of paint are actually liquid chemicals, whereas our paint has water in place of those chemicals. And yet our performance tests show 9.4 to 9.6 out of 10, which means that our paint is actually better than most chemical-based paints. So if you can make a water-based paint that doesn't harm the environment, that doesn't compromise your health, versus a chemical-based paint that harms the environment, that harms your health, why would you do that?
He's got a good point. So this is the thing I'm taking away. I would love everybody's interest and feedback on this. We have one entrepreneur who intended to be a disruptor, one who did not intend to be a disruptor, both of which have created ways to disrupt their industries. What do you think the difference is between how you intended to start, Tim, as a disruptor versus Parminder, who did not intend to start as a disruptor but became one? What do you think you said it a second ago, I'm trying to find a eloquent way of steering you into the statement. So go ahead. Why do you think that some people become disruptors intentionally versus unintentionally?
Are you talking to me or Parminder first?
For you.
So honestly, I really love Parminder's explanation about success, which I agree 100%. For me, success is makes really how much you grow, which is the same as proceeding and progressing.
I'm going to kick your data in the teeth. Uh-huh. You're giving me a lazy eye. It's right there. It's falling. It's just like collapsing. Right there. There it goes. Welcome back. Oh, that's not a keep. There he is. We'll come back in a second. It's funny as hell, but this is why I love this stuff. The thing about what I really have enjoyed most about this Corona thing is because we've had to become more human. You know what I mean? I think that's made the intimidation of being an entrepreneur a little less, severe. So people are able to try things. So everyone's having to try something new, right? So making it more human. You said something I thought was really interesting, and what I think is key is Parminder started her business thinking that she would be helping moms, right? Someone she could relate to. Tim started his business thinking everyone, not just moms, not just straight white men. It was a human thing versus a segment of a family nucleus, both of which are bigger than themselves, which is why they are businesses and entrepreneurs at heart, which is awesome. The thing I think made Tim's approach a disruption from the beginning was because his scale was so much more universal versus Parminder's, which became more universal. Do you think that's a fair statement, Parminder?
I think it's beyond that. I think it's more about perspectives, right? I mean, to be a disruptor, from what I'm hearing from Tim, is he wanted to make a difference, right? And he was going to make that difference somehow. And it started with, and he wanted to make a difference on the environment. So he focused on that one, and then basically said, okay, I'm going to have exhaust pipes because that's really where I see the problem. And then really just, the only thing is that it's a pivot in the execution, but not so in terms of paint, that's the execution, but the ultimate focus that he had, which was on the environment, didn't change, which is what makes him a disruptor from the start. And I'm putting words in your mouth, Tim, so forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but okay, sounds good. But from my perspective, the reason was, I would say, not as altruistic, right? My thing was, I just wanted to solve a problem. I wasn't looking to make a difference per se. I was looking to help moms just find their shit at home. And it's not altruistic at all. It was just about, oh my God, I'm frustrated. I'm sure there's 100 other moms that are frustrated. And I did ask people, like, how do you do this? And they said, well, if you find something, let us know. And I thought, okay, we all have this problem. We have too much shit in our homes and we just need to find it. That it didn't have that altruistic means. So I think for me, the calling about human trafficking, as I mentioned to you, came from the story that I mentioned. It was like when I stayed in a hotel and it happened, and it was more like, and by that time, the industry was paying more attention towards human trafficking. And I felt this is an opportunity to use what we do to make a difference in the world. And that became a calling. So I didn't start with the calling to help human trafficking victims. I didn't start with this whole idea of like, we were going to have this make a massive difference in the world. We were going to solve a problem and we were going to get on with it. And that was it. And then we found this mission, which has now tied us all together in the company and kind of given us collective mission to have this impact in the industry, which drives us forward to do better in everything that we do. But I think that's really maybe the difference in being a disruptor from the beginning or not, is what's your motivation to start what you're doing? And in your case, for example, you were driven, initially, let's say it was the investment side, but you wanted to create a home for teenagers that didn't have a home. That's very altruistic. You wanted to do what you could to help those in your community, have a place where they could start off from, and then give them the skills and the backing to be able to grow. And then you found a way to, marry the investment side to that. That to me is like a different motivation than, again, from where I started with. Right. So I think that's where I would say you're clearly a disruptor, because you've taken something and not just provided a home, but now also taking your investments to also connect with that. So I would say if someone's looking to be a disruptor, maybe look at what's your motivation. If it's like mine, then you might become a disruptor a little bit later. But if it's like yours and Tim's, then I think you may start off being a disruptor.
You know what though? I think you just said something that made me think. I love that you think it's bigger and it's universal. I think that was really cool. You said that whatever, I'm going to rewind this and watch that. That was so well said. Something else that's interesting is there's not a very large age difference overall between the three of us. It just keeps going in actually the same increment, it looks like. But what's interesting is when you get—
Are you talking about age now? Like seriously?
Well,
we're gonna go
you'll see where I'm going. You'll see where I'm going. Just hold on there. You're the prettiest one on the call. Just accept it, okay? But the term disruptor wasn't something that you intended to go into, because when you were starting Track and Protect, the term wasn't even common. Like no one said it, you know? But then when Tim came around 2.5 years ago with Small Armor, the term disruptor and influencer were being used. So people could, that path had already been forged so that he could step in and do that. I think that's a big part of it. You know, because like if you didn't know you could, if you had started your business 2.5 years ago, first of all, you'd be a different company, but you would have said, oh, I can be a disruptor in this field because it was already appropriate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then the intention would have been different. I think we did end up being disruptors in the hotel industry with our asset tracking solution because nobody was doing it. Mm-hmm. And now there's different people. Asa Abloy looked at us and said, oh, we can do asset tracking too. And so we have other AT&Ts of the world coming and looking at our product, right? And saying, well, we could do that. So I think we did become disruptors, but I didn't start out wanting to be a disruptor. Whereas I think that's the intention where Tim did start the company to be a disruptor.
Okay.
Because he wanted to change things from the start to disrupt how people were responding to the environment. Again, putting words in Tim's mouth because he's got bad connection. So but I'm just going to say that's really what that's what I'm hearing is that he started out by saying, I'm going to change the way, this is being done so we can ultimately reduce the impact on our environment and so on. So he started with that focus.
What's also interesting is, and Tim, if you have service, feel free to weigh in. What I find interesting, what you just said, Parminder, is, first of all, people are they're horrible to the masses or horrible to the environment. It's not, they always think very much about themselves. But when you were saying just now, oh, come on, words, they were just here. And then Mark showed up and threw my brain off. Hold on. Resetting, intellectual power failure, reloading. Yes, damn. Yes, so when as a disruptor, what's interesting, and you both have done this, you start off with one product, then it evolves, you have your R&D teams, you keep thinking about other ways to grow your business, not because you're trying to reinvent the wheel or trying to, it's not for profit revenue generation solely, it's also because you're thinking bigger, right? So it's in a different way. That I think is what makes a disruptor, because it's like, well, how else can I do this? What else can we do? What can we add to, or what can we do instead? It's kind of a constant reworking of your ideas. Is that a fair statement, Tim? We're testing to see if he's got service. You can also give a thumbs up or thumbs down if you think it's a yes or what I said was great.
Good job, Jacob. I hope I have service now, but Parminder, it was right on point. Thank you so much for helping out with that, because that's pretty much on par with what I would have said as well. Anything I need to catch you back up on?
I think you're good right now, frankly.
All right.
But the idea of like being a disruptor is constantly reworking what you have in front of you. Do you agree to that?
I do, and one of the things that I also strive for is to just also be really innovative and reinvent the wheel as much as humanly possible, honestly. Anyone that comes to me and says, oh, this is how it's always been done, or, this is how other people are doing it, or this is how other companies have had success, I say, great, let's do it the other way. Let's find some other way to do it. And that's really what's found us a lot of success, because if you just continue to think and do things the way other people do them, usually doesn't always work out the best.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. It's the same thing with like divergent thinking, right? When there was a study that was done that they took these first graders and they followed them for their entire collegiate career, but they started them off in first grade and they sat them down and they told them to think of different ways to use a paperclip. And at that point in time, they were testing out off the charts as far as divergent thinking. They were using them as like fishing hooks and how to build towers out of them. And they were so imaginative that their divergent thinking was crazy. But then they followed them through a few years later. And in fifth grade, they only had like 3 or 4 ways of using that paperclip. And then when they finally got to a senior in high school, they had about 1. So it's the way that our education system works takes that mentality of how else can I do this and streamlines it into just thinking what you're told to regurgitate for a test. Now, we'll get to the failures of our public education system at a different time. But what I do think is interesting is as entrepreneurs, we typically have very strong divergent thinking skills, or we hire people with really strong divergent thinking skills. We call it collaboration, right? Would you agree to that? So Parminder, what are your thoughts on divergent thinking and coming out of things outside the box? Because you've already mentioned like 4 or 5 things that you've done on this call that you're constantly thinking about.
So I'll tell you this, as I'm listening to, there's a Brené Brown podcast. She talks about this, about how when you're a child, you're able to do things in more different ways because you're not limited by the social norms that we grow up to. And then these norms that we grow up with actually limit our thinking and our ability to be able to think outside the box. So when we look at those things, I think it's also being entrepreneurial. If you look back 20 years ago, being entrepreneurial, it was like 1 in how many that actually, maybe 1 in a couple of 100 people that was an entrepreneur. And we had a lot of small businessmen, but they were selling more, having more retail shops, but they weren't really entrepreneurs in terms of having tech companies and so on, or starting new companies, right? And so for me, what I've realized is, when you have an entrepreneur, have a startup, you find that they may sell their startup, they may, whether it's they close it down for whatever reason, sell it, merge, whatever, they'll then take a break because it's exhausting, but they'll go back and start another one. And it's because entrepreneurial thinking, and now it's the new word within large companies like Motorola and Cisco, is to be an intrapreneur. That thinking is like, it's like practice makes perfect. Once you start thinking about how else can I do it, whether you're in a small organization, whether you're the CEO of a small organization or, a senior marketing director of a large organization, you can still be entrepreneurial because it's like, oiling that machine constantly of the way of thinking. And then suddenly you have all these ideas you want to explore. And then the idea is, okay, which one do you focus on for now? Which is the button you follow today for the next while, that you keep your eye on the ball and see if that one really grows? And if not, then how do you change it out? So I think anyone has the ability to be an entrepreneur, but it's like one of those, giving yourself the freedom to think outside the box and giving yourself that freedom to explore it and follow it. And it doesn't matter where you are, but it's looking at that. And once you start doing it, the ideas then it might initially be 1 idea or 4 ideas. And then suddenly you'll find every day you turn around, you'll be like, oh, there would have been a new way of, doing these Zoom calls. I just saw something today where it actually allows people to be in a classroom. And I'm not talking about like the gallery view in Teams or in Zoom, but more so like how it actually rotates the camera that we have with the software program of as if you and I were in the same room together, and how they're using sort of AI to do this. And it's just really interesting, right? And it's born of the need of today because everyone is doing these calls from home. So I think every day then you see something, you think, okay, well, if I just add 20% to that, then I could do this. And then it's just suddenly, you're coming up with ideas all the time. And then talk to your customers. What do they want?
Absolutely. You have to know what your customers and the people around you are looking for. Because if you supply the demand, you'll stay in business. It is 4 o'clock, and Parminder, I know you have a hard stop right now. So thank you for joining us in this panel. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find you and information about your company?
Absolutely. So my email is, in case you'd like to reach me, is parminder.batra@trackandprotect.com. And I know Jacob's going to share that in the chat. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, if you want to know more. Our company is trackandprotect.com. That's TRAKN protect.com. It's quite serendipity. I came up with the name before doing everything that we do today. So I think we kind of fell into our name. And happy to answer any questions. Being an entrepreneur is, having this journey. I tell folks I would never go back to practicing law full time. I don't think I could do that anymore. So being an entrepreneur really is, it's a journey. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of heartache. It's a lot of stumbling blocks, and yet it's just completely satisfying. It's what wakes you up every morning and makes you feel like, you're going to accomplish something by the end of the day, and you do. And I wouldn't change it for anything.
I couldn't say it better if I tried. Thank you for everything. I think you're being such an incredible role model for so many.
Oh, no, thanks for having me here again. It was great to see everyone, great to chat with everyone, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.
We'll get on a three-way, you, me, and Tim shortly to talk about all the stuff you guys are doing. Enjoy the show, and I'm going to have some final thoughts from Tim. So, Mr. Sperry, over there. Are you muted? Okay, there you are. So what are, so we're going to start wrapping this up, which is fantastic. I love hearing what we're doing. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are. Give us some final thoughts on why people should not be afraid of doing something extraordinary.
Well, I mean, I think Parminder said it best. It's really, to me, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, it is, waking up in the morning. I'm sure it's the same for you, Jacob, next to the kids when they're good. But waking up in the morning every day and just being excited about doing something and making a difference, making an impact, making a legacy for yourself, and just doing something that maybe is a little more meaningful. You don't want to go through and regret not trying something or not doing something that really you could have had the opportunity to do, because today, more than any other time, you don't need to have a rich family or a rich partner or money in the bank or, trust fund baby to do this. You could get on Kickstarter with your phone and with something you could find out of the trash can and make up a product and try to sell it. And you can do things for almost nothing. So there's no real reason why you shouldn't do anything. I've started a lot of companies. I always had that entrepreneurial spirit in mind. And I've learned so much throughout those processes that would have been great if I could have learned from someone else. But during those times, it really wasn't that way. And I didn't have those influences around me. But it's so easy now to find those resources, to connect with people, social media, anything else, and just collaborations are super key. We found with our business that collaborating with muralists and artists have brought us Burger King, NFL. We just got invited to do a big mural with the UN in New York City for Climate Week next week. And that was all by just communicating and, working with like-minded people, AKA a really amazing artist. And it's just, I just feel like really you have to at least give it a try. And, as Parminder said too, it's all about that first button. And it's really all about just making that first step and giving it a shot. And if you're passionate about it, or if it means something to you, or if you really want to be a disruptor and there's enough reason behind it, you'll do it.
I agree 100%. If there's a big enough reason.
And last piece is, if it's just money driven, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. Something will stop you. Got it.
Simplest thing will stop you. If it's just money, the simplest things will stop you.
Yes, absolutely. The simplest obstacles, they'll get in the way, and then you'll just give up.
Agreed. Well, I'm glad that you're a part of our little organization. Tim was here from the very beginning of this, and we were doing real estate together ahead of time. So thank you for being everything that we for being a part of everything we've been creating. Apparently, I do like to paint, as I discovered this past week in Colorado. So that was fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You could be one of our muralists too.
It's kind of fun. Now that was acrylic paint. So now we got to redo the entire mural with small garment paints. We got to get that shipped over. Yeah. Look, a butterfly. Anyway, so we'll get going for that. Tim, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for being on the call. I want to remind you guys that we do have Stock Market Survivor tonight, for those of you who are part of Stock Market Survivor. Real Estate Survivor Season 2 is an invitation only program we're going to be starting. You're going to be starting to hear about now, but it's going to be officially starting training in November. And then we're also working on our grant for DC. So wish us luck for that. Super cool. We are going to be working on a business building credit, a business credit building, actually, if you're interested in learning how to build your business credit, as well as how to build your credibility in social media. We're going to be doing 2 challenges. If you're interested in participating with us on those things, please send me a private message. I'll be looking out for you. So yes, we're going to be building your social media presence, building your credit for your businesses. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Friday, Tim, you'll like this. Friday, our special guest is going to be teaching us how to invest in seeds. Yes, SEEDS, seeds. So if you're interested in learning more about being a little outside the box, we will see you on Friday as we continue to grow and, of course, party on. So everybody, you have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Take care. Safe travels, Tim. Bye.